Hey guys, this is Matt Ramsey with the Octave Higher East Voice Studio in Austin, Texas, and this is Octave Higher episode 13. Okay, so basically today we are talking about the curse of imitation, specifically the curse of imitating another singer. Stick around.
I'm in love with the world through the eyes of a girl who's still around the morning after.
Well, guys, I think this is a really fantastic subject to talk about. There's obviously kind of like a whole lot of interest, and there's really a market for people who want to sound like other people when they're singing. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. You know, there's nothing wrong with emulating somebody else, but you really want to choose the best method that's going to keep moving you forward. So what I mean by that is when you are striving to imitate somebody else, you do not have that person's body. You do not have that person's vocal folds. You do not have their throat. You don't have any of the things that necessarily make them sound like them. You sound like you. So when you're trying to imitate somebody else, you're always trying to strive for something that isn't exactly either physically or literally you. You know, it's basically you're just trying to achieve that same sound that that person has. Now, I have some really intimate experience with this because for years and years and years, I absolutely adored, emulated, and and probably went into the greatest depression of my life listening to Elliott Smith. And Elliott Smith is one of my favorite songwriters. I love him to death. Oh, excuse me. Well, he is passed. Sorry, that was wrong. I absolutely love his music, but you know, he's a real sad guy, and he's got this beautiful, melancholy acoustic singer-songwriter music, and it's some of the best that I've ever heard in my life. So for years when I was living in San Francisco, I was trying to emulate that both in song written form, but also with you know, my singing. And he's got this real light, fragile voice. I'm in love with the world through the eyes of a girl. You know, and he's able to, you know, to sing some of those higher notes, but, you know, his entire range is super breathy. Really terrible technique. I'm sure he never probably took a voice lesson. Didn't stop him from becoming, you know, a really amazingly successful musician. However, in spite of that, that was his voice, you know? He had a softer, gentler voice. Now, do I think that some technique could have improved that breathiness that we talked about to get him more, I'm in love with the world through the eyes of a girl? Maybe. I would say probably so. However, me trying to imitate him is really kind of ironic because, as you can tell, I love to talk. I've got a really big, kind of boomy, loud tenor voice. It's very direct, and it's very, it can be kind of aggressive in a way, which is pretty much the total opposite of what Elliott Smith's voice was like. And so what I was trying to do was I was trying to always take my voice, which is this, down to here. And it just doesn't work like that. I mean, you can work with that as like an effect or a temporary sound, and you could probably make a career out of it. However, it's not your voice. And so it was just one of the most amazing things about my study with the Institute for Vocal Advancement Technique that I started to get away from that. And I started to find out what my own voice was like. And now with that kind of hindsight and having been through that experience, I can absolutely tell you there's so many great reasons to be taking voice lessons. One of the biggest is that you're going to start to experience what your own true voice is like. Now, I see this with my students all the time. My students are always like, you know, I've been told that I sound like X, or I've been told that I sound like Y, or I have a great soul voice. Or sometimes they're like, you know, that wasn't soul enough. Well, was it you? Was it your voice? Then that is great. So a lot of people will be like, you know, well, I don't really know what my voice sounds like. That's why I'm imitating other people. And to that, I would just say, yeah, absolutely. That's a great place to start. However, always thinking that you need to sound like this other person that isn't really you is not a long-term vision for your voice. So what we do a whole lot of the time in voice lessons is we try to get to, a little bit closer to what your own voice is like. So if I were to try to sing that Elliott Smith song again, I'm in love with the world through the eyes of a girl, right? Okay, so that's me trying to imitate Elliott. Now, I remember my teacher, Gene Raymond, was always saying, okay, well, I want you to sound like you. And he had this big, deep, booming voice. Very, very, very great man. And so he'd be like, okay, well, go ahead and give me a good, good, good. Good, 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 good. Okay, and all of a sudden, I've gotten away from that I'm in love to a good, 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 which is so much closer to my actual voice. Okay, good job, Matt, good job. Okay, let's move on to mama, mom, mama, mom, mama, mom, mama, mom. Okay, absolutely. So, got that. Okay, now let's do it on the words. And see if you can find that same feeling that you got on the mum, 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 I'm in love, rather than I'm in love with the world through the eyes of a girl. Okay, so I'm a little rusty this morning, but I hope that you get the idea. So rather than trying everything to be like so small and so breathy, I'm really using my voice now, and what a difference that makes. Now, I think that this applies to everybody because you have totally different vocal issues than Adele, than Mick Jagger, than Jeff Buckley, and you really have to work with what you have. Does that mean that you're stuck, having, maybe you think you just have an okay voice? Are you stuck having that okay voice? No, absolutely not. Vocal training can absolutely help you. However, can you ever totally be somebody that you're not? No, unfortunately, no. But I would say give yourself over to the gladness that you were born with this voice, this beautiful voice that you do have, because I do believe that everybody's voice is beautiful in some way, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of digging to get down to it. I hope this answers this beautiful question for you. I'm also going to attach a fantastic blog that Master Teacher Spencer Welch of the Institute for Vocal Advancement has written on the subject. I really think it's worth a read. But have a great week, guys. Bye.